turn off our phones, everything. Welcome, everybody. If you're just coming in, if you wouldn't mind muting, if you're not speaking, if you wouldn't mind muting, I just can try to mute everybody. Thank you, guys. I'm Melanie Warner. I'm the founder of Defining Moments Press, and we are a company that helps people publish a book, write a book, become a bestseller. We also help speakers and trainers and coaches build their stages and have incredible opportunities. I am so excited about this. I am personally doing a TED Talk this year, and it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. After I met Maya Lisa a few months ago, we started talking about collaborations, and there's several of our authors that have also worked with her that are booking their stages, which is super exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. We promise we're going to do this quick. We're going to do this in 30 minutes. And then if you want to stay afterwards and ask more questions, we're willing to stay on as long as we need to, with a hard stop at an hour. Fair enough? So really quickly, without further ado, I want to pull up my slides here. I'm going to share
tell them how we met, right?
Oh, yes. Okay, will you do me a
that.
favor when I start the slideshow? Will you also watch the room as people
I will.
come?
I'll keep
And also, if you guys wouldn't mind mentioning in the chat, I want to know how many of you in the chat have ever watched a TED Talk. You can show your hands or put in the chat, just put me. And how many of you have sat there and watched the TED Talk and said, oh my gosh, I could do this. I could totally do this, right? So this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to get down to the nitty gritty, and I'm going to share my screen here because I want to show you something very special. Maya Lisa and I met a few months ago when we both went to India, and we ended up speaking in front of hundreds of thousands of people. It was pretty exciting, pretty exciting. So I'm going to show you what that looks like as people are still coming into the room. I'm going to show you a little bit. It's a little slow because I'm on Zoom and we're broadcasting live, but I just want you to picture for a second, for those of you that want to be speakers or you've thought about speaking on a stage, I want to share with you this whole slide of what it looks like to be on a stage in front of hundreds of thousands of people. Now, this was a live event in India. COVID was officially over, right? And when you're doing a TED Talk, you have the same type of opportunity, but you're not speaking to that big of a stage at once. But the point is you can impact millions and millions of people with your message. So I just want to give you a little taste of what it means to be a speaker at that level. Can you guys hear it okay? Yeah? Okay.
I can't hear it.
Can you hear it?
I can't hear it. When you do the share the first time, you have to click that sound button on the other one. So if you guys can hear, put a yes in the chat and I'll check, but I can't hear you.
Can you guys hear the music? Can you hear?
No, no one's hearing anything.
Okay, let me try it again.
This time when you hit the share button, make sure you click those two little things down at the bottom.
There are two very important days in your life.
1 second.
Number one, the day you were born. And number two, when you discover why you were born. For all of us here today, these defining moments can happen for customers.
But you guys can't hear it.
These defining moments
Just hit share now.
in a business. These defining moments can happen in a relationship. It can happen
I can't get it
when a stranger reaches out and gives kindness to another.
Sorry, guys, bear with me 1 second.
We need more purposeful defining moments so we can learn from your life and not from pain. When you strive to reach for a dream, you honor the people that you love. What is your defining moment? When you share your own story with everyone, then we are one. We are one.
Try sharing it.
Yeah, I don't know if you can share your screen. There you go.
So you can see that was Melanie. You saw a little bit of hers, and then this was mine. I haven't gone into the play yet, though.
I gotta turn my phone off because
Anyway, it's okay. So let me go into, oh, I don't usually use this one, present mode. Who knows with Google Slides how to turn it into present, so you don't have to see all
On
my
the right,
slides.
if you go to slideshow at the
Oh,
top.
there it is.
There you
Okay.
go. Perfect.
So anyway, Melanie, thank you for inviting me to come and speak to your people about how to become a TEDx speaker in 2023. And it says guaranteed, obviously with an asterisk by it. It's those people who are the most coachable and action takers are the ones who will make it on the stage. And I want to start by telling you about you're only one step away, one talk away from your dream. You saw for a moment Melanie, you heard Melanie without seeing her, and it's not important that you see mine, but this is my dad with Reagan. And Reagan made a phone call to my dad and he said, Keith, would you do me the honor of representing me in the United States as ambassador to Finland? And he said, yes, sir, Mr. President. As he stood his attention on the phone and his blue eyes sparkled, my mother said. And I think, how did a farm boy from Idaho, so Lisa knows where Rexburg is. I was even further away between Ashton and Driggs. She'll be able to get that. And that's where I grew up. And he became an ambassador. It's because he gave a talk and that he wasn't even planning to give. He was on a board of directors. Reagan had just been inaugurated. They were talking about money for their grain cooperative and it got heated. And it was almost lunchtime, so they broke early. And while they were on break at lunch, my dad, who's a very gentle man and a big thinker, problem solver, came up with an idea. And when he came up, when they came back, reconvened, he said, do you mind if I take a moment and share an idea that I have? And after he was done, they said, wow, Keith, you're so diplomatic. Both sides agree. You ought to be a diplomat. You ought to be an ambassador. You ought to be the ambassador to Finland, because they knew that my mother was from Finland and he had served a mission for our church there and knew the people. There was an independent auditor there who said, I'm going to find out how you become an ambassador. The word that came back is, if you think he's qualified, get me his resume and I'll get it in front of the president. So because he gave one talk, a dream he didn't even really notice, he was one talk away from his dream. While he was the ambassador, this is me with Barbara Bush, because they came to visit us at the embassy there. What I found out when I started teaching public speaking at Brigham Young University, Idaho, is that Barbara Bush is on the top 100 in speakers in the American rhetoric. And what I learned at this point with Barbara Bush is that she has a sense of humor, which I found out again in a talk. So this picture is me standing by her and she has her arm around me and she is very humorous. And she embarrassed me by talking into the earpiece saying to the Secret Service, she's single and she's cute. You might want to ask her out. And I guess today I would say, where are you, Barbara Bush? Now that I'm single again, I could use you. But I also saw her humor when she spoke at Wellesley College, an all women's college. In the middle of her talk said, and who knows, somewhere out in this audience may even be someone who will one day follow in my footsteps. At this point, she was the first lady. And preside over the White House as the president's spouse. Now watch closely. And I wish him well. That's her sense of humor. And that one talk put her into that top 100. You probably know Brene Brown and Simon Sinek, who have both given both TEDx and TED Talks. And you may wonder, like, what's the difference between them and me? The difference is they've given it and you're still wanting to know how to give a TEDx talk. TED started clear back in California in the 1980s. I was living there. I was totally unaware of it. They were not publicized. They were an inside thing. It was a conference started by Richard Saul Whirlman for 18 years. At that point, he said, I'm done. What would have happened if TED Talks had ended back then? Oh my goodness. But this man was one talk away from his dream. This is Chris Anderson, who for the last 2 decades has been the head of TED. When he heard that Richard wanted to shut it down, he said, no, wait, let me pitch me taking it over. I've been a struggling entrepreneur and I've learned so much from these TED Talks. And giving that talk, that presentation of his life, he landed this and he's been the head of TED. This is me in 2018. I'm holding up 10 fingers because that year at TED Fest is held by TED. We bring together 500 organizers from around the world, and they teach us how to put on better TEDx events. YouTube attended and gave TED the Diamond Award because they had 10 million subscribers. Chris Anderson, what he did for us is he put it on YouTube. So today it's not just about giving a TED Talk. I even had a friend give a TED Talk in the Bay Area, and I didn't know anything about it till years ago, but it was never recorded. But Chris Anderson put it on and they're recorded, and you might get 300 views, 3,000 views, 30,000 views, maybe even 300,000 views. You might make it to 1 million views or more. But the subscribers in 2018 were 10 million people and they got an award. Now look below that, it says 37.5 million subscribers. That's of today, how many people subscribe to the TEDx channel. And so you have the potential not to just be seen by 100 people or 1,000 people on a local stage, but to be seen by thousands, maybe even millions. The first TEDx event I attended was in Idaho Falls, and this woman is from North Korea. She told the story of how they escaped to South Korea, and I thought, this is so cool to have a global feel to it. Every community gets to choose. Well, at this time, there were only 300 licenses given by TED when I started doing this in 2016. Now there are over 4,300 licenses given around the world. And so you could end up speaking in New York, you could end up speaking in Australia, you could end up speaking somewhere in the UK, you could end up speaking in India to give a TEDx talk as well. There is power in a TEDx talk. This is Carol, and Carol is a local person who I happened to run into at a farmer's market, and she said, oh my goodness, I know why I met you. I've always wanted to give a TEDx talk, but I'm so scared and I don't know how to tell my story and all of that. She worked so hard. She applied 3 times and she finally was accepted. And then she worked on her talk so much. And through that process, she gained so much confidence that this woman of many children who had not finished her college education just graduated in April 2022, all because of the confidence she gained by getting on the TEDx stage. This is Justin. And Justin is an Osmond. He's the nephew of Donnie and Marie. If you happen to know who the Osmonds are, put an O in the chat, please. And there's something different about Justin. Some Osmonds are deaf, and Justin is one of them. Now look at him on the red dot there. You see a violin behind him. As his speaker coach, I said, Justin, you're an Osmond, and especially in this area, people are going to say, you're deaf, but are you musical? And he said, oh, yes, I play the drums and I play the violin. I said, oh, this community thrives on the violin. They have a huge orchestra program for their youth. You have to end your TEDx talk by playing the violin. And the power that came from him is he and his dad, Merrill, have now been global speakers, traveling around being keynote speakers. Just a few months ago, Merrill retired, and it's now Justin doing solo. So from him getting on the TEDx stage, it gave him this opportunity, this idea for his dad and he to work together. Sometimes the power comes in fellow speakers. So at this particular event, Luke and April both were speakers. There were 16 speakers that day. And Luke is the founder of a company, and he hired April to become his social media manager. So sometimes it comes from collaborations, just like I'm collaborating with Melanie right now. There was a time during the pandemic, and still going forward in some places, that you didn't stand on the red dot. You stood in your living room and you gave it. This is Janet, who I coached, and she spoke in the Boston area. And this is Kara. Kara, let's see if it's going to play here, if you can hear it.
Hi, I'm Kara Lane, and my life is forever changed. I am so glad I met my Elisa, and here's why. Before I met my Elisa, I was a speaker, just doing anything to get a gig. Then I auditioned and got on the TEDx stage, and it changed my life. My Elisa was my speaking coach, and let me tell you what she did for me. First of all, she can ask the right questions to help you get to the heart of your issue. She makes sure that your voice is never lost. So she individualizes and strategizes who you are. As a result of being on the TEDx stage, my life has changed. I'm an international consultant. Even post-COVID, I've been able to go overseas and speak and train. I am so excited because I'm now credible with young people. They actually know what a TED Talk is, and they're in awe that I did one. I put this in my signature line for every email that I'm a TEDx speaker. And most of all, I'm excited to tell you that TED actually paid me. You heard me right. They liked the TED Talk so much that my Elisa helped coach me in, that they turned it into an article and I got a check in the mail. I feel credible on all levels because of my TEDx talk. And
there you go. So she's actually not only given one, but two since then. This is Tony, and Tony is from Chicago, and she has over about 300,000 views. She's talked about diversity. And this is that me or is that you, Melanie? Sorry. Okay, I think we're good. I think mine shut off. This is Lacey Marie, and Lacey Marie, when I was coaching her, I actually ended up being at the stage for her dress rehearsal, and she has black hair and there were black curtains, and she was wearing a black turtleneck. And I said, oh no, you are a bobbing head. So you've got to change, and tomorrow when you speak, it's got to be a bright color. Well, she wore a bright color, but she also didn't wear a shirt underneath. And if you look close, you see two scars, because her talk is about how she had explant surgery and how they had almost killed her. And this has become her signature. So it became a power statement for her. As soon as she's off the stage, she changes. But when she's on the stage, she's now known for this. And this is Bill. Bill was a stealth bomber pilot. His was picked up by the military to be watched, and he has almost 650,000 views with it. This is Tasha, and you'll notice that there are two counters here, because Tasha, Chris Anderson has it been put on the YouTube channel right now. We're 37.5 million people that could see it. 566,000 people have seen hers on YouTube, and they bumped hers up to TED.com. She didn't even speak about business. She spoke about being the mother of someone with OCD, and shared this powerful story and developed that into and shared the idea that had developed about working with her daughter's OCD. And she has so many views because she got involved with the community and they were excited. She gets emails every day for people reaching out. And this is Anne. Anne was speaking at a convention that I was at in front of 1,000 people. She just offhandedly said, you know what, I'd love to give a TED Talk. So on the intermission, I walked up to her and I said, I can help you with that. And Anne, who's a body language expert, you can see her great body language on stage there. She has 1.8 million views. So a TEDx is all about not the story, not an issue, but whatever you're talking about, turning it into an idea and putting it into action. And the X in TEDx means that TED, that happens once a year, that's headquartered now in New York, gives you your community or your university or your business a license to hold a conference for one time, 1 year, for 100 people. If you want to do more, you go to that TED Fest like I did, and you learn how to organize bigger events. And they are now, as I mentioned, more than 4,000 different stages around the world, waiting for you to find the right stage to put it into action. So what's first? You need to know your audience. So what is a TEDx stage looking for? And if you stick around to the end, I will share with you the top 10 things that a speaker coach is looking for in a TEDx speaker. You need to find what other talks are similar to your idea, because you've got to find a way to be different, unique, and relevant to like why I should speak today in 2023. Whoops, I think I overdid that. I don't know how to go back. Oh, sorry, I don't know what I did here. So what if I'm rejected? Congratulations, you've taken the first important step, and you just need to ask an expert why your TEDx idea was rejected, and then create a better speaker reel as your example. What if you're accepted? Congratulations. Now you need to practice your talk a lot. I was just speaking with a former client of mine just before I got on this call, and he found his stage so quickly that we spent our months together or weeks together getting him ready and accepted, and he practiced so much that it was okay to be on the stage with confidence. And then even things that others bring to the table within the group, or Melanie is building this marketing promotion machine. I told you, like Anne having so many views and Tosh having so many views, there are things that they did that brought those views about. And what's the process? You just have to visualize it. Can you see yourself standing in the middle of the red dot that the TED stage has made famous? Do you have a big idea that you can say in a single sentence? It is tough to find it in one single sentence. And is it a big idea, or is it an idea that's just said in another way? Either is fine. So what qualifies you? You don't have to be the expert. You just have to be an expert in your field or in your topic. Like Tasha didn't talk about business. She talked about OCD. She is an expert in OCD as the mother of a girl with OCD. And the process is you have to apply. Sometimes TED will reach out to you, or a TEDx stage will reach out to you and say, we've heard about you. That's not as common. And sometimes someone will say, oh, you need to hear from so-and-so. So Simon Sinek wasn't even asked to be a TEDx speaker. Someone in Puget Sound was and said, oh no, you need to hear from Simon Sinek. And I'm so glad that they said you need to hear from Simon, because where would we be without Start With Why? It's really just 10 minutes. You got to learn to be concise, compelling, and you have to have a title that's not clickbait, but that teases them. It's like you read their mind like, oh, I want to know more about that. And that's what helps you get Red Dot approved. And there are things that you can do to monetize it as well. This is Brigitte, some of my more recent clients. In October, she stood in a sold out stadium in Frankfurt, TEDx Frankfurt. She's from Germany, lives in Atlanta, and went back to Germany to give her TEDx talk. This is Lawrence in Australia. Yes, I have clients around the world, which is fun. And he again didn't speak about his business. He spoke about how he helps as a volunteer in suicide, and his message is about what you can do to help people who call you on the phone in that, to help them find meaning again in their life. And I love what Thor said back in August. He said, I did it. It's a dream come true. Because remember, you are just one talk away from your dream. Now I want to tell you about Jacqueline. Jacqueline, I had the chance to coach her, and she was having a hard time memorizing or getting it all together. And she so wanted to do it, but she was afraid. And then even the day of, she got sick. She got on that stage with sheer will and determination, remembering what she had to say and having this important message to share. And I'm so grateful she got on the stage that day, because she spoke in March of 2020. If you remember what was happening in March of 2020, put a yes in the chat. March of 2020, she spoke luckily the first Saturday, because if it had been the second Saturday, that TEDx event would have been canceled, like our life was canceled in many ways. And so this particular stage has not recovered since COVID. They don't have an event anymore. Sometimes that happens. They do it for years, and then the organizers who are volunteers, they're tired or they need someone to take over. And I'm so happy that she did that. I'm going to come out of sharing just for a second to now share with you. Oops, come out of that. So we were going to show you my video a second ago. Let me bring it back up here a different way than from the slideshow. And who I mentioned here in the beginning is Jacqueline.
After my client spoke on a TEDx stage, she died 13 months later. Her words live on. You are just one talk away from your dream. You are just one book away from your dream. Share your words today, because time is not promised. Write your book. Give your talk. Now is the time to share with others, because we are one.
Oops. All right, Melanie, I'm going to turn that over to you, and I'm going to go make sure this video.
Doing a TEDx talk.
Okay, here we go.
Most transformative.
Thank you.
There we go.
I'm just going to unmute Nigel real quick. Nigel, are you still with us? I know you had something else that you were going to jump on. Hey, good to see you here. So Nigel was also with us in India and spoke on that same stage. So what you just saw was my Lisa speaking and my video earlier, and Nigel has some great footage from there as well. So basically, we all were, got a chance to meet up there. And Nigel, you've been working with my Lisa for the last 8 weeks, perfecting your TED Talk. So tell us a little bit about that experience and what's been going on for you.
Well, we're a group of 12. Is it 12 guys? I think it is 12 guys.
It is.
Yeah, there's Doug and Lupa that were with us in India, and myself, and then there's 9 other guys. Well, yeah, eight other guys from the UK, America. I think there's might be one from Canada. I'm not sure, but all different types of characters. Very one guy's talking about face language and being able to read faces, which is pretty scary. I did a great one on Luba, which was funny. There's a chiropractor that's giving a fantastic talk. He did something last Friday to show us what he's doing. I'm talking about winners and champions, and that the two are not the same, and that the conventional idea of a champion is not, it's too narrow, it's too finite, it's not universal enough. And I'm talking about how you can actually be a champion in an unconventional sense, that there are champions all around us, and what are the things that we need to think about or express to actually be also a champion. So that's the subject of my topic. And my Elisa has just a great course. It's a breakdown of everything. There's a checklist that we go through. We've got a web, the interaction between all of us, a WhatsApp thing, just like we have with defining moments. In fact, it's very similar in that respect. We have sessions every week where she stretches us, puts us in the hot seat. I've been in there once, twice, I think. We talk about things. We go through the why process, a bit like the 7 levels deep or 5 whys deep type of thing, as you go through your topic and then you reverse it. And she's put a great lot of emphasis on this idea that it's not a keynote speak, it's an idea, and how can you bring a different sort of face on that idea. It's not about you, it's about the idea, and how can it impact the world, or if it's a particular stage like Atlanta or Idaho or San Diego, what's the theme of, and how does your talk fit in with the theme of the TEDx Talk stage where you're going to talk at? And then it's cutting it down. It's basically trying to get your idea out, and it's all about minimizing. So it's almost an exercise in minimalism. You've got to really précis or summarize everything that you're saying, and for impact. There's a lot of impact things there, but not jargon or anything like that. So it's a different skill that you learn. If you've done a lot of public speaking, and I know many of us have, it's a different type of public speaking. So it's fascinating, and it really does stretch you. And again, just like when we went to India, Melanie, we've got a dozen, another dozen friends that are fabulous people.
Yeah, John Bates is on here. I want to say hi to John too. He was there with us in India. He's on this call right now. Yeah. There's
another group of fabulous people that you get to know, and they stretch you, and they're great at listening to you and helping you develop your ideas and pulling it apart and finding different ways to say things. We did a couple of weeks ago, we did an exercise for Luba for about 20 minutes where we were trying to find different ways to say things for her, because she's talking about doubt and how you can use doubt as a positive to actually cause creativity, which is a sort of interesting idea. So it's cool. It really is.
I'm so proud of you. I look at like you've written your book, you got it out as a best-selling author, and then you started maximizing. You said, I'm going to, push me, let's go, let's do this. And I did. And you went to India. You went from like not having anything to writing a book, becoming a best-selling author, creating a coaching course while you have a full-time job in the middle of getting divorced and then getting remarried.
Yeah.
And then and now going to speak to hundreds of thousands of people in India live, and now doing a TED Talk. So I just am so proud of you because you took some action. We can sit here and give you guys all the tools, and tell you everything that you need to do, but taking action is such a critical step. And in fact, Luba, who's one of the people that was with us in India, has now booked 2 TED Talks already, just from going through this process. So what I want to do real quick, and thank you, Nigel, for sharing. I really appreciate your
No
feedback.
worries.
And good luck with your experience. Thanks again for being here today. I know you have to jump off, so thank you for waiting to
Yeah,
share
no worries.
your
I
experience.
have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of work to do. My coach is sitting in front of me and I don't want to let her down. So,
Well,
okay.
thank you. Thank you
I'll
for being
catch you.
here. I appreciate you.
Nigel, so nice to hear the things you've learned.
I'll see you tomorrow or on
See you
Friday.
tomorrow. Okay.
I'll be
And
sending you
what-
some things. Bye.
And what I was going to share real quick too is, so you're probably wondering, okay, now what, right? We've got this information. Maybe this is something that is speaking to you and you're saying, I really want to do something, further. I want to know more. I want to get more involved. We're not here to sell you anything. We don't really have anything to sell per se. But if you want help, if you want to know, like if you want my Lisa to stand alongside you, right, and have her personal time, we're putting together a small group of people that really want to learn more about this, including myself. I'm actually committing to this. And because I'm doing it and I finally figured out what I'm going to talk about, I'm so excited. I want to bring you guys with me. Just like I brought Nigel and Leah to India with me to speak in front of all these people, I want to give you guys that opportunity to expedite this process. So if you want to land a TED Talk this year, then I want to have your permission to kind of give you a little bit more information that you can think about. This is going to be something that we're doing by application because we want to make sure that A, that you really have something worthwhile to talk about, right? And B, that you know how to monetize this the right way. So if you are a business owner or you're a coach or a consultant, or maybe you have a book already, then when you speak, you can use your business and your book as additional currency above and beyond actually getting paid to speak, right? So it's really important that you know how to monetize this platform and how you can leverage this to actually get booked on as other speaking gigs, right? The more speaking you do, the more credibility as a speaker that you have, the more you get booked. Like just because of the India trip, I just actually got booked to speak at a Mensa, a national Mensa conference in Las Vegas next month. And I'm going, wait, I'm blonde. Is that even allowed? So it's kind of funny because, by the way, the word Mensa, I think, means dumb in Spanish. So it makes me laugh. But that's beside the point. The idea is that you don't have to be a tech wizard. Like, obviously, we're not, because we still use Zoom every day and we stumble over it just like you guys do. You don't have to have a bunch of experience. You don't have to have a big company or a lot of social media followers and all of that stuff. You can kind of start this even if you are starting from scratch, but there's some critical pieces we want to put together. So if your goal is to become a TEDx speaker this year, then we want to help you get there faster. So you don't have to try to figure it out on your own. You want that certified red dot next to your name, the elevated status to corporate clients to actually get more enterprise clients as opposed to just the entrepreneurial clients, to get thousands of views to a new audience, increase status as a professional speaker, and not just as a professional speaker, but a global speaker, documented in multiple news outlets. I own magazines and newspapers. I'm also a journalist and write for a lot of big publications, national publications that you might have heard of. And so we like to help people elevate and get those platforms. You also can get future speaking fees and get paid more because of this experience. It's the ultimate brand builder. So one of the things that we're putting together in this 8-week group, it's a small group of just a few people where we're going to get together every week with my Elisa, just like Nigel just did. And we're going to get together live every week. I'm going to be part of it. She's going to be part of it. She's going to be hosting and teaching and training. I'm going to go through it just as well. And you're going to end up getting all the best practices, all the tips and the tricks and the shortcuts to getting your application approved, how to design your talk and how to determine what you're going to talk about, the checklist to make sure the application goes through, because you do have to apply to speak at a TED Talk. And no matter where you live, there's always one near you, or you can travel and go to a different one if you want. You'll get a full directory of all the stages so you can apply anywhere. You'll get press announcements. In EPK, which is electronic press kit or media kit, will help you put that together. We have a template for that. digital news syndication, so you get featured in other news media, and unlimited one-on-one support, email support, and live weekly calls. Here's an example of the checklist and the blueprints to help you make it happen faster. Find a stage, clarify your idea, write the title, record the video, get reviews, get feedback from other people in the group. We're going to do a live weekly Zoom call, and we're going to check in with you for daily personal progress. So if you want to join us and you want to come along in this process, I'm happy to have you guys get involved in this. This is basically, if you were going to break it down and look at what you would have to pay to kind of create this platform on your own and have all of these opportunities and the bonuses, it would end up being about $150,000. I know if I'm getting paid $5,000 to $10,000 a pop because of my investments as a speaker, then the more speeches I do, that's, 10 speeches a year at 10,000 is like $100,000 just in speaking fees, right? So one speaking fee can actually help you identify what's going to make it work. So instead of charging all of these amounts, we're not even going to charge $5,000. It's only $3,000. And that's for the full 8 weeks as the small group. That's our price for the next 72 hours. We actually are only having 12 people. We have 3 people that already committed to before this call, that they reached out from our email and said, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm in. I want to do a TED Talk. What do I need to do? We have 9 seats left. So it's a $2,000 discount. And this is by application only, because we want to make sure that you do have a little bit of speaking experience. You have a desire to serve. This isn't just an ego thing to jump out on a stage, right? You're open to learning, you're coachable, and that you have the commitment to do this. You can also email me, Melanie at mydefiningmoments.com. I can put the links here in the chat as well. And this is from April. You saw her earlier. She said, my Elisa helped me get my message out quicker and with more clarity. Here's the information. I'm going to leave this up for just a little bit. Basically, you can go to sign up. If you say, you know what, I'm ready to do it, I want that spot before it goes away. You can go to dmspots.com/TEDx. You can click on the link to book a call with me, and you can email. I'm going to put this information in the chat as well, so you'll have the ability to reach out there. And at this,
drop that in for you.
yes, thank you. I appreciate that. And then also, if you have questions, we're going to stick around here for just a little bit. If you have questions, I know some of you put some questions in the chat that we may not have gotten to you. So you can either put questions in the chat, or you can also raise your hand and unmute yourself if you have a question for my Elisa or for me on this process. And otherwise, if you have to hop off, we appreciate you guys being here today. So grateful that you could join us. I hope this has been inspiring and showing you what is possible. And at this point, I'll go ahead, just because we want to keep it short, open it up to any questions that you have.
And I did promise them the top 10 tips. So I'm going to also get that and put it in the chat here. If you're still here, you can get that. Let me grab it for you.
And
Yeah,
if you have questions too, and you want to book a quick call, I'm going to put my calendar link in the chat as well, because I really want to make sure that we get a chance to talk and answer your questions. Anything that you guys need help with, then we will put our contact info in there as well. And then there's the TEDx tips that my Elisa has that she added in. I'm going to also put the registration page. So if you are somebody that says, okay, I want that spot, there's a few left, then you can go ahead and just click directly here, dmspots.com/TEDx, and book your position there. Or if you want to reach out by email, you can email us, Melanie at mydefiningmoments.com.
Okay, there were a couple of questions earlier. If you put one in, I think I tried to answer it for you. Someone was like, if I have so many ideas, what can I do? So as you're thinking about them, Catherine, just separate them out as separate ideas and think that's for a different talk. And I think there's been one person, I don't know personally, but I've heard of, that's given 9. But the first thing you have to realize is TEDx is not a speaking circuit. But that doesn't mean you only give one talk. You could give a second or a third. So Kara, who I did the little video of, she's actually given a second talk. Both of them have been on gaming, but from different perspectives. The first one, her as a mother, thinking, oh my goodness, my boys are going to become degenerates with all this gaming, and how she got curious and changed her perspective. The second one was from the perspective of her sons and how they were more prepared to be online during COVID than we were, who were not such online people. Okay, did another one come in here? Let's see. And you can, if it's okay, you can raise your hand and we'll take your call there too. So if you think, let me ask you this question. So you're going to give a TEDx talk on Saturday. What's your topic? Put it in the chat for me. What is it? What are you going to talk about? So Catherine, you have 3 or 4 to choose from, right? Pick one, or put 3 or 4 in, it doesn't matter.
Well, those ones all kind of tie in together.
Okay. So kind of like with Kara, you could do different ones, and you might apply to, and you should apply to more than one stage when you're in the program. But if you're accepted at both, you can kind of alternate which idea you apply with, or say, would it be okay if I spoke about this slightly different angle instead? Because you want to be very open and honest with them. You're not supposed to give the same talk on 2 different TEDx stages. That'll have to be a different idea or a different take. Okay, so the power of the thought, interesting. Know your worth, great.
And Shannon jumped off, but she asked, she said, you know my story, I have many, but how would we narrow that down? Thanks for the message. What would we say in 1 minute? So I think that's a great question. You know, how do you condense your story and into an elevator pitch in 1 minute? If you only have 1 minute to pitch yourself, how do you determine what part of your story is the most important one to pitch?
Well, if you only had 1 minute, you'd kind of take it into 15-second blocks. The thing is that you would have more than 1 minute, although I will say that some of the best TED Talks or TEDx Talks out there are less than 5 minutes. So you can actually look up a playlist for TEDx Talks 5 minutes and under, 4 minutes and under, 3 minutes and under. And as someone who has sometimes coached a whole stage, well, several times I've done that as well, I'll say, I think you could say it in 3 minutes, whereas you need 9 minutes to do it. And if you've given a TEDx talk or thought about giving a TEDx talk, you know that it's 18 minutes or less. But I'm here to tell you that very few people are ever given 18 minutes anymore. And the way they started doing this was when TED was started by Paul Wurman was, this is a conference, but we don't want 45-minute where you tell us everything that we already know. We're all experts. So just share us what you learned new this year, or that you've learned in the last little bit that will help us this year going forward. And we're going to break it down to 18 minutes. And now the trend is to have like a 10-minute TED Talk or less. And I think I probably got away from the original question, but if you have the smaller, so if you wanted me to give a 45-minute speech at a keynote, I could probably just get up and talk about whatever topic I'm well versed in. I think you could do the same thing. If you want me to give a 4-minute talk, then that takes a lot of work, because what you're doing is you're removing all the fluff, all of the noise, and just leaving back in what applies to that one idea we're spreading. So it takes work to say less.
Good advice. If you guys have a question, you can raise your hand. You can also go down to reactions and raise your hand there like this. That way we can see that you have a question. We can mute you or unmute you if you want to ask the question and engage, or you can also put it in the chat if you're shy.
And I see some other ideas coming in too, like Artie's like, harmonize all of you with all, be the harmony you want to see in the world. So a tip here is to say it in a way where you, your title needs to be said as a tease. The idea has to be spelled out. So Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do or how you do it. They buy why you do it. That's his idea. But Amy Cuddy, the title of hers is Your Body Language May Change Your Life. And you're like, you don't know how it's going to change your life. You have to listen to the talk with it. Okay, someone's talking about grief. I've had a good one on that. And there's, wow, some really great ones that exist out there. Self-healing or sexual abuse survivors. I'm going to show you this. I had this out talking to someone earlier. March of last year, I had a speaker, CJ Cranock. And when he was a freshman in high school, he was basically raped by the seniors on the team. And he told his story, and he told it wearing these baseball shoes, because it was a baseball team, right? And these were new Air Jordans. And at the end of them, see they have signatures on it. He took them off afterward, and he had his fellow speakers sign it. And then when I walked up to him, he had asked me to sign one, and then he handed me the other one to thank me for being his coach. But his message was like, men are abused too, and we need to know that, and we need to make sure that they get their help. And it was so important. And he actually used a really cool technique that I love to share and teach. And he didn't miss a beat in the whole thing, and he was given a standing ovation. I'm just so happy he got to share his story, and that's such an important thing to do. So yes, talk about grief, talk about recovering from it, but you can't just tell a story. And John, I'd love it if you're there to open your mic, because you actually have helped people with this as well. And what would be your take? Hey, you feeling good? Shoulder doing well? You're muted, so come on
Thought
out.
I clicked it.
That's okay.
I'm feeling better. Thanks, Maya Lisa.
Yeah,
Not all better, but better.
that's better.
So
What's your tip?
my tip for TED Talks,
Mhm.
you know, the number one coaching that I got, I've spoken not on the main stage at TED, but I've spoken at TED a few times, and I've, like you, coached a whole bunch of TEDx talks and spoken in a number of them. The number one coaching from TED is, what is your one idea we're
Yep.
spreading? So to be able to boil it down and really get it clear. And then what I tell my clients is, listen, everything else you say has to line up like the shaft of a spear behind that tip of what is your one idea we're spreading.
Mhm. And it takes some time to like Nigel was talking about, you know, it's stretching him to think about it in a way I've never thought about it so deeply. Like, what's under the under, and then how do you line that up? And then I love that you use the
Value
spear.
of this,
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
absolutely.
And I love that you use the spear, because to me, it's like, let's talk about a company, for example, and if they're having some problem with customer service or putting the wrong paint on or something, they're trying to figure it out. They might ask why that's happening. Well, it's happening because, you know, the order wasn't entered correctly. Well, why is that a problem? Well, because we're going to lose some customers. Well, why is that a problem? Because then we're going to have less money. Well, why is that a problem? Because maybe a division will be gone in the company, but nobody really cares until they get to the level under that says, oh, you mean I might lose my job? I might not be able to apply to take care of my family. When it becomes personal, and here's a tip, nobody cares about your story. Now I'll repeat that, nobody cares about your story unless they can see themselves in your story. Like the difference between the company shutting down versus me not being able to provide for my family. And if you can get to that, which takes some time, then you're gold. All right, any other questions or comments here? I like the other things you're saying in here. Self-healing, we did pain to purpose. Why Jesus never said to forgive your enemies longer. And know how here's a longer version coming, how the differences between grieving and mourning leads to it, knowing the differences between love and forgiveness. I told you that I actually teach a class on campus about how to do a TED style talk. And I had a student who had married young to spite her parents, went through a bad divorce, married again, and had a bad and lost a baby, and had these two griefs. And she said, you know, here are the cycles of grief, but what I have to add to the conversation is this: you have to allow grief to transform you. And so it's taking something we might already know and adding another layer or saying it in a different way, because you have to have a giving heart to get on the TEDx stage. It's not about selling your book. It's not about selling your business. That can be a result. But if you're on there for the wrong reason, they'll feel it. But if you're there to freely give, then it makes a difference, and then they will seek you out. All right, well, I've enjoyed my time with you here today. If you have any other questions, stick around. And if you have questions, reach out to Melanie. If you're ready to sign up, great, go to that link too. Or if you want to have a call, do that as well. It's been so nice having you here on the call with us today.
Yes, thank you all for being here. I appreciate your time. I promised we'd get you out of here quickly. I hope you got some great value by listening to this and learning about the opportunities. Once again, if you do decide that you want to work with us on this and you want to hop in and do something over the next 8 weeks, we're going to be doing that live every single week together and walking you through step by step what you need to do. I'm doing it myself. I finally narrowed down what I'm going to talk about, and I love it so much. And I've been talking to people about it, testing it too. That's the other thing I would suggest. Just like all of you that write books, we say, go test your book titles and your subtitles. Go see what sparks people. Go see what makes their eyebrows raise up. And so I'm going to be talking about something that's very important to me. It's based on a famous essay that my great grandmother wrote back in the winter of 1915 called The Cash Value of a Woman. It's phenomenal. It's exciting. And we're reprising it as a book this year, and it's going to line up perfectly with the TED Talk as well. So thank you guys so much again for all being here. Thank you, Maya Lisa. If for some reason you joined in late or you guys missed a lot of this, then you can go back and we'll send everybody an email with a replay, anybody that registered. And if you look back in the chat, you'll see the top 10 TEDx tips. Try to say that 4 times fast.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you have questions or you want to book a quick call with me, you can do that as well. I'm going to put that back in the chat right now. So if you have more information that you want to get on this, you can take a look at that, and then also look at the page itself that breaks down everything that's included over the 8-week course. I'm going to put that link in there too. Otherwise, we will see you all next time. And again, thank you all for being here so much. Appreciate you all. Take care, everyone.
Thanks so much. I'm just saying thank you here in the chat to those of you that reached out. Thanks so much. And I can't wait to see you on the red dot.